Since 1934, Iowa's farmers have turned to the Iowa Farm Bureau spokesman as their trusted news source. Now, the Spokesman Speaks. Listen in and hear from leading experts on topics important to farmers and agriculture. Now, here's your host.
Welcome to our October 18th edition of the Spokesman Speaks podcast. I'm Andrew Wheeler, and today's episode features a peek inside the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences at Iowa State University, also known as CALS. A couple of years ago, Dr. Daniel Robison joined ISU as the new Dean of CALS, and at that time we had a chance to interview him on our podcast about his vision for the college as he was just getting started in his new role. Last week, spokesman editor Dirk Steimel traveled to Ames to meet with Dean Robison again, this time for an update on where things stand with the college and how the college's work is serving farmers, ag professionals, and the broader Iowa economy.
Dean Robison, can you give us a quick status update on the ISU College of Agriculture and Life Sciences in terms of enrollment, job placements, and research investments?
Sure, happy to do that. The college, your College of Agriculture and Life Sciences here at Iowa State University, is in great shape. We are firing on all cylinders. We have our challenges like every organization does, but we're doing just great. Enrollments are down from a peak in 2016. That's true for the university as well as the college, but we have worked really hard to slow the decline in enrollment, and now we have a total of about 4,600 students in the college. About 500 or 600 of those are graduate students, and all the rest are undergraduates across our 15 different departments and 25 odd different majors. And so every program is thriving and striving and doing great. There are differences in enrollment between the programs, of course, but overall we're really working hard to bring in our students and help them be successful. We're thrilled that still a majority of our students are from Iowa, although we are thrilled also to bring in students from out of state and from other countries as well. I think that helps to diversify the ideas and opinions and the perspectives that people bring to our classrooms, just like our faculty come from a variety of places. But we serve Iowa first, and we stay globally relevant, and that's what our mantra is. We do that in the context of what Iowa State's all about, which President Winterstein has really given a new tagline for, which is Innovate at Iowa State. So we bring in these students to become innovators and entrepreneurs and to advance science and technology and the way the industry will develop. And some come from farms and go back to farms. Some don't come from farms but will go back to farms. And others go off into industry and public service and all kinds of things. Our placement rates are terrific. For 20-some years now, we have placed more than 98% of our students within 6 months into a job or graduate school of their choosing. And we're thrilled that we were able to sustain that right through the pandemic and continue on. In fact, today we have a career fair on campus with lots and lots of companies represented. Next week we'll have an online career fair with others represented. And so we're doing well on all of those regards. So we need to keep our enrollments up because that's what drives our budget model. But I just can say without question that we're in great shape and we're happy to be so.
And on research dollars?
Yeah, so we've had actually a banner year in terms of bringing in external dollars for research on grants and contracts and other kinds of mechanisms. Something north of $55 million of research awards this year. Of course, those get spent out over a number of years, depending upon the nature of the grant or the contract. Our principal sources of funding are from the federal government for research, agencies like, of course, the United States Department of Agriculture, but also US DOE and NSF and others. And then we have terrific support from the industry in the state and more broadly across the country. And that is so important to us. Both these kinds of research helped us to stay relevant, help us to make sure that we're training students and preparing them to get into the pipeline that's going to support the industry, that will provide farmers with the latest and greatest science and technology to advance their operations, that will provide industry the latest and greatest, and will push the envelope on intellectual property and all the things that make our economy strong and the agricultural economy thrive. It's really important.
You've been leading the college for 3 years now. What do you see as the biggest challenges and the biggest opportunities ahead of you?
So lots of challenges and opportunities. In fact, every opportunity is a challenge and vice versa, of course. One of the things that we always have to work hard at, I don't want to say struggle, but we work hard at is we are a comprehensive College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, meaning that we cover a broad array of topics, and that's important to us. Agronomy and animal science, agricultural and biosystems engineering, issues of rural sociology and economic development, and all these things are relevant to us. So picking and choosing among them is not something we do. What we try to do is elevate them all. And that's a continual challenge, especially as we are right now with a constrained budget. It's hard to make investments in all of those important areas equally. So some have to get online and wait a little bit. But we're looking to push the boundaries on all these topic areas because that's important to us. It's both the opportunity and the challenge. The other thing that is an opportunity and challenge for us is how to breathe life into the interdisciplinary space. So when we bring our students in, we try to engage them in what we call the CALS Advantage, CALS meaning College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. The CALS Advantage is fourfold. It says that our students will bring an entrepreneurial and innovative mindset to all of their work. It says our students will learn to advocate for the things they believe in that they've studied here at Iowa State. It says that they will become expert in their discipline so that they can work in interdisciplinary ways, and that they'll learn to lead. Whether they're leading from the front or from behind, we want our students to be leaders in terms of thought and appreciation and perspective. So we try to combine all of these things, and it is a challenge and an opportunity for us to engage across the disciplinary lines, across the departments, and with this vast, vast array of important partners and others in the agricultural arena that are so important to us. The commodity groups and organizations, Farm Bureau among them for sure, but the other commodity groups, the industries that represent what we do so much and so well, the big farmers and the small farmers and everybody in between, the technology companies and so on. So this is the challenge for us, and it's a challenge that we wake up every day and try to address globally as well as locally.
How have you seen the college evolve over the past 3 years, and what's that meant to farmers?
Yeah, so, all of us everywhere, if we think about the last 3 years, those last 3 years have been dominated by the last 20 months, which is the time in which this pandemic has been all around us. And it has affected everything we do. So when I talk about what the college does, what our university does, what the university leadership has had to focus on, the pandemic has dominated our conversations, appropriately so, because it's so important to manage the disease, keep ourselves and our communities healthy. What we've done, though, despite that, is to continue to sustain, build, and grow a college of excellence that knows where its primary missions are. So as part of this land-grant university, we are all about teaching, research, extension, and outreach. And we always ask ourselves the questions: how do the things we do support the people who work the land, who raise our crops, who raise our livestock, who turn crops and livestock into food products and other kinds of products that are important to our economy, whether it's into fuels or into bioproducts or into new kinds of food that we're going to eat. These things are really important to us, and we ask ourselves this question all the time: are we being relevant? Because that's what a land-grant university is supposed to do. That doesn't mean we don't do fundamental basic research where the application of that science is not immediately obvious, but that's what backstops our ability then to do the kind of translational research where the applications are immediately obvious. So, for example, we have people who are working on the biological details of how soil functions. And we have people working on the details of how we're going to apply that information to manage soils, improve water quality, manage fertility, nutrition, and productivity of our crops, and all the things in between. So this is what we do, and we do it on behalf of the farmers of Iowa and the state of Iowa and its agricultural industry, which is so important to all of us.
We've talked a lot about carbon and carbon trading and how agriculture can play in that field. How is the college involved in that? And what is the college doing to help farmers participate in these emerging markets?
Yeah, carbon is, of course, on everybody's mind these days, and for good reason. So many of the things that we talk about with respect to carbon are related to issues of how we manage our landscapes, and our crops and our animals. And so these things have always been important to us as agriculturalists. You would never meet an agriculturalist who didn't think the soil was important. Sustaining soil is important. Sustaining soil productivity, keeping soil and nutrients out of waterways is important. And these things always have been important. But I think there's an increasing and an accelerating interest in ramping up our applications of technology and how we understand these agroecosystems so we can do a better job managing carbon, other greenhouse gases, and the impacts those things have on the world around us. So the college is involved in these set of topics in lots and lots of kinds of ways. So, for example, if several of our scientists, John Crespi, John Lawrence, who's our Vice President for Extension and Outreach, and Dr. Lisa Schulte-Moore, who's a professor in natural resources, who are very much involved in the governor's carbon sequestration task force, and in fact are leading some of the science and technology aspects of that effort. So that's one way we're participating in the broader conversation about how Iowa as a state prepares itself and then engages in managing these issues. We have scientists in our policy and economics arena who are interested in understanding the various approaches that have been already put forward from the private sector to managing carbon and paying for carbon. What are the long-term prospects of those approaches? How do they approach different greenhouse gases besides just CO2? How are those approaches going to be applied? How will they vary based upon different sorts of cropping techniques and federal programs that may overlay on top of them? Lots and lots of questions there. Of course, we don't make policy, but we interpret policy and we provide information on what the implications might be of new policies and new ventures in this world of carbon. And then we have the whole slew of scientists that work on cropping systems themselves, whether it's biogas from the digestion of animal manures to how we manage nitrogen and carbon in our landscapes with respect to productivity of our crops. So all these things are right in our sweet spot, and we have people working on them every day.
Iowa farmers, as you noted, continue to take on the challenge of improving the state's water quality. How is Iowa State helping them in that quest?
Right. So water quality is, of course, important to all of us. None of us have ever met someone who says they don't care about water quality. We all need it, we drink it, and we water our crops and our animals with it. So it's important to us in every way. I would break down our interests, our activity in water quality in several buckets, if you will, no pun intended, right? We have scientists and people who are exploring both edge-of-field and in-field practices to examine where the water moves and how it moves and what it's taking off the landscapes into our streams and waters. Dr. Matt Helmers, who runs the Iowa Nutrient Research Center with state funding here at Iowa State University, working collaboratively with other universities as well. They fund more than $1 million a year of research every year to look in large part at edge-of-field practices, biofilters and oxbows and all kinds of other tile zone projects, all kinds of other projects to look at how we can manage water quality at the edge of fields. And then we have lots of people who are looking at in-field practices. In fact, a couple of our scientists, Dr. Raj Raman and Dr. Ken Moore, recently won a $10 million grant to look at cover crops, for example. And there are lots of other examples of this, Dr. Schulte-Moore's work on prairie strips and so on. So many of these things reflect back on water quality and landscape management to achieve water quality. And one of the other buckets that we work in here is through extension and outreach. And so there's a continual effort on the part of our extension and outreach professionals here on campus and in all 99 counties across the state to make available and to translate that information to our farmers so that they will know how to apply these techniques and benefit from them, to provide them the information necessary so that they can make good decisions on their own about how their landscapes will be managed in a way that supports their livelihoods as well as protects water quality. So, we work to translate information from our labs, from our scientists, from what our students are learning to those that are out across the state managing the landscapes on behalf of their own livelihoods and all of us.
Livestock is certainly important to Iowa agriculture. Can you outline some of the ways that CALS is working to help livestock farmers both in production and marketing?
Yeah, so our largest department in the college is the Department of Animal Science, largest in terms of undergraduate students. Agronomy is a large department, ag and biosystems engineering, ag economics, and so on. But we have a terrific program in animal science, and again, it works both in all three teaching, research, and extension and outreach arenas, and very, very much so. So, in fact, we've been engaged in an effort to improve the quality of the facilities that we do teaching and research in, so that our scientists and our students can push the boundaries on the kinds of science, the kinds of management techniques that are available to our growers. So we have a brand new turkey research and teaching facility that's under construction and it will open next year. Last year we opened a brand new poultry teaching and research facility, which provides all kinds of experimental opportunities with respect to how the birds are managed for egg laying, and there's also some broiler space in there. We are working to upgrade our dairy so that we can continue to provide good information to our dairy farmers across the state. And of course, we have beef and sheep and all kinds of other animals that are important to us here. And the research goes everywhere from reproductive physiology all the way through to nutrition and meat science and how we turn those animals into food products that are going to be healthy and useful for all of us. We also work collaboratively with the College of Veterinary Medicine on issues of foreign animal disease and the management of diseases in general. In fact, just last week I attended a small part of a conference that our extension programs were offering to help certify more people as composting specialists with regard to livestock should we have depopulation events because of animal disease issues. And we all know that we have to work doubly hard to prevent animal disease issues from occurring, but once they do occur, we have to be prepared to manage those, and composting is one of those things. So we have people preparing right now for what will be, we hope against, but may be the next episode where we've got large livestock depopulations happening. So we're working, I think, from A to Z to support our farmers and our landscapes in all these regards.
We've seen a surge of entrepreneurship in Iowa agriculture, especially since the pandemic. I know Iowa State is involved in entrepreneurship. How is the college helping young farmers become more entrepreneurial and to follow those passions?
Yeah, so entrepreneurship is, I think, part of our lifeblood. And here at the university, we now put that under the tagline of Innovate at Iowa State. There are all different kinds of entrepreneurship. And to be an entrepreneur means you are innovative. You're trying something new, different, or additive in some way. And so we think about entrepreneurship not just in terms of business opportunities, but also in terms of the development of new technology, the capture of intellectual property. We think about social and civic entrepreneurship and how people organize themselves to achieve the results they think are important on behalf of society. The Farm Bureau itself is a form of social or civic entrepreneurship to advocate on behalf of farmers. Land-grant universities are a form of public sector entrepreneurship to create institutions which will better serve the communities where they're founded. And here in our college, we've had for many years a very strong what has been called the Agricultural Entrepreneurship Initiative. It is now going to reside under a new name. The new name is called Start Something in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. And the Start Something initiative is all about enabling our faculty, staff, and students, and in many cases community members and industrial and corporate partners, to come together to enable new ideas to take root. It's linked in a variety of ways through the work of Kevin Kimley, professor of agricultural entrepreneurship, linked in through Kevin's work in a variety of ways to startup funds that are out there and available. A good number of companies have come out of the college now that are hiring people and creating new opportunities across Iowa and beyond. Working with our Associate Dean for Academic Innovation, Carmen Bain, here in the college, we've just launched an effort to create a program we called Innovation and Entrepreneurial Faculty Fellows. So in every department in our college, there will be people devoted to this idea of translating teaching, research, and service into entrepreneurship and innovation, because we really want to breathe this idea into all of our students and give them all an opportunity to become innovators and to become entrepreneurs should they choose to do so. And these things will have all kinds of downstream benefits to our farmers and our processors and our communities all across the state. So this is a piece of who we are, and increasingly so.
And also a benefit to Iowa's overall economy.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, look, we want the whole economy to function well. We want small town Main Street to thrive. We want downtown Des Moines and Cedar Rapids to thrive. We want our campuses to thrive, and the farmers who manage our landscapes to thrive. So this is about, a high tide rising all boats, as they say. And in this comprehensive College of Ag and Life Sciences, we hope we're hitting the mark in all these areas.
Finally, as you look to the future of agriculture, what excites you the most about agriculture in general and at the college?
The exciting thing is really the easy thing about being in these fields related to agriculture, natural resources, and so on, and that is that the future is so fully, completely dependent on them. Issues of local, global, world food supply will never go away. Issues related to food as medicine, food as a source of health and wellness will never go away. The rate of change in our societies is ever faster and faster. And so what's exciting is that we are on the leading edge. We are at the climbing edge of change. And we know that we need to respond to change faster and faster all the time. We need to find ways to continue to do what Iowa farmers have always done, which is to be the best producers, the most efficient, the highest quality stewards of our landscapes. And we know that only gets more and more difficult. We have, of course, issues of carbon and climate change. We've got issues of water quality. We have expectations about the health and wellness of our communities and the foods we eat and so on. And our college is positioned to work with citizens across the state of Iowa and beyond to advance all those things just as fast as the change can come. In fact, we'd like to be part of the change, not just responding to the change, but to be driving the change in ways that promotes the things that we believe in, we think are important. Right? So when we think about this broad term of sustainability, and the three components of sustainability are really economic prosperity and economic viability, our environmental quality and concern for the broader environment beyond immediate local landscapes, and then of course the social impacts of both those things. These three components that make up this notion of sustainability are always important to us. We have departments that represent all three of those. We try to extend ideas about that through our extension and outreach programs. We try to attract research dollars so we can advance in all those areas. And of course, this is what we're teaching our students, to find ways to balance these things so that our communities can thrive, so that our landscapes can be productive, and do this on behalf of all the citizens of Iowa that are part of a global economy. This is important to us.
Thanks, Dean Robison. I know we have several alumni from the ISU College of Ag who are tuning in to this podcast, and they appreciate that insight into what's happening at their alma mater. There's always so much going on, so it's always good to touch base with the folks at ISU College of Ag. Well, we've nearly reached the end of this episode of the Spokesman Speaks, but before you go, I want to remind you of an upcoming opportunity that's one of the most attended webinars each year. We might not like it, but we're coming into income tax season, and Iowa Farm Bureau's annual Farm Income Tax webinar will be on November 4th. Staying up to date on the latest tax changes and preparing for farm income taxes can be a real challenge, so this webinar has really become a valuable resource for Iowa farmers over the years. If you'd like to get registered for that free webinar, we've included a link in the notes for this episode. With that, I'll wrap up this episode of the podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it and that you'll join us for our next one on November 1st. Thank you for doing the work that inspires everything we do here at the Iowa Farm Bureau, and thanks for listening to the Spokesman Speaks.
Thank you for listening to the Spokesman Speaks, a podcast by Iowa Farm Bureau. Check out more podcast episodes at iowafarmbureau.com/podcast. You can also find and subscribe to the Spokesman Speaks podcast in the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and other popular podcast apps. We appreciate your ratings and reviews, and we welcome you to email us your feedback at podcast@ifbf.org.